Hello, and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to be doing a talent showcase of Xingqiu or Xingqiu? I think it's Xingqiu. I've heard a lot of different ways to say his name. Don't really know the correct one. Don't really care. However, I absolutely think this character is super cool, which presents a problem for me personally, because now that I really like Xingqiu here, I have a sword user. I really like Bennett, who's also a sword user. And guess who just pulled Jean, who's also a sword user? And so now I have a hard time of, wanting to incorporate 3 sword users in my team, but that's my own personal problem. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the talents for Xingqiu here. And for his first talent, we have normal attack Guha style. Perform up to 5 rapid strikes, charge attack, typical charge attack, nothing too crazy on his normals. Here are the skill attributes for those of you interested, and we'll go ahead and show those off. His normal attack pattern looks like this. Pretty fancy, definitely stylized. I like it. And then his charge attack is your typical sword user charge attack where it does 2 slashes right there. And for the plunge attack, your typical sword user plunge attack. Now moving on to his second talent, we have Guha Sword Fatal Rain Screen. Xingqiu performs twin strikes with his sword, dealing hydro damage. At the same time, this ability creates maximum number of rain swords, which will orbit the character. The rain swords have the following properties. When a character takes damage, the rain sword will shatter, reducing the amount of damage taken. Increases the character's resistance to interruption, and then 20% of Xingqiu's hydro damage bonus will be converted to additional damage reduction for the rain swords. The maximum amount of additional damage reduction that can be gained this way is 24%, and the initial maximum number of rain swords is 3. Using this ability applies wet status onto the character. So there's a few things about this ability. It's a little complicated that I'm going to have to go over. So you get an initial damage reduction of 20% for the 3 swords that you get, and then based on his hydro damage bonus, you get extra percentage up to an additional 24%, meaning you can have a potential 44% damage reduction 3 times with these swords that he has, not to mention that this skill also deals damage. So pretty insane skill overall. As you notice, long cooldown understandably, and it gets even better with his later talent Hydropathic here that will go. Rain Screen here is pretty fancy. It's actually one of the reasons I like him so much. It looks so cool. Check it out. He finesses and then creates these 3 rain swords, and when you're attacked, these rain swords will absorb damage for you. Just making your characters that much more durable, and yes, it stays on when you switch. Very nice thing about Xingqiu is all of his abilities stick on you when they switch. You'll notice we got a heal there at the end. That's the other talent that I was talking about. We'll go over in just a moment. For Xingqiu's third talent here, we have Guha Sword Rain Cutter. Initiate rainbow blade work and fight using an illusory sword rain while creating the maximum number of rain swords. Normal attacks will trigger consecutive sword rain attacks dealing hydro damage. Rain swords will remain at the maximum number throughout the ability's duration. This effect carries over to other characters. It also has these different skill attributes for those of you interested. Yes, another higher cooldown, so you will note Xingqiu is very much a support DPS character, so you're gonna probably want to build him out that way. Anybody can be your main DPS character. People have made Barbara DPS, but the way he's structured, I think you're gonna be better off on the support DPS lane. Alright, I went out and I got his Elemental Burst here, so this is what it looks like in action. He casts his Elemental Burst, it gives you maximum rain swords, and then on normal attacks, it creates these rain swords, and yes, this transfers over to other characters. And you notice it has a very consistent firing rate. It's not like it increases with Xiangling's normal attacks, but on normal attacks there, it is going to give you that little extra hydro damage, and giving you the maximum number of rain swords. Very nice Elemental Burst, and I think probably a very good hydro ability to have. You're definitely going to want to focus on that. Elemental Burst is going to do you a lot of justice. For his fourth talent here, we have Hydropathic. This is the one I mentioned earlier. It is when a rain sword is shattered or when its duration expires, it regenerates the current character's HP based on 6% of Xingqiu's max HP. This is really nice. He's definitely, so on top of the fact that you're getting the damage resistance from the swords, when you do get hit, you're also getting healed from the sword shattering 6% of his max HP, which, as you can imagine, just scales really well as his HP goes up. So Xingqiu is very good at defending the team and being a good sustain for the team. So he's definitely an excellent support healer, not a main healer for sure. However, definitely a good support healer because you can use him as a support DPS and then also protect your team while healing them, allowing you just to not have to heal yourself just as much. This is why I really like Xingqiu. He's an incredible support. All of his moves are stylish, and you know I'm all about the style. And all of his abilities carry over to other characters, which is very powerful in this game. But moving on to his 5th talent, we have Blades Amiss Raindrops. Xingqiu gains a 20% hydro damage bonus. This is just a free hydro damage bonus, by the way. Not to mention that Xingqiu's hidden stat, I believe, is hydro damage bonus. I haven't been able to ascend him because I don't have the resources. However, this is just a free 20% on hydro damage bonus, allowing you to just continue to stack your hydro damage bonus, allowing you to get that extra damage resistance and do way more damage on his elemental burst that carries over to other characters. I think Xingqiu is an amazing character and I really love his set. I can't wait to level him up when I eventually have the resources. But anyway, moving on to the final talent here. His passive talent is maybe the most valuable thing to Xingqiu. If you hated everything about this character that I've shown up to you now, at least if you have him, you have this perk, Flash of Genius. When Xingqiu crafts character talent materials, he has a 25% chance to refund a portion of the crafting materials used. So when you're farming talent books, which takes forever, mind you, I only get 2 of the blues at AR 40 for the current talent books that I'm farming. So being able to churn the greens into more blues and potentially get them back is absolutely insane and definitely a valuable asset to have, even if you don't want to use the character. Moving on towards Xingqiu's Constellations. His Constellations are fairly good here, however, I don't really think you need him. I know a lot of you are getting Xingqiu off of the current banner, and if you get Constellations, great. They're definitely not going to hurt you. I think these are fantastic Constellations. However, his raw talents that he brings to the table are more than enough. But let's go ahead and check out these Constellations for you. The first one here is the Scent Remained. It increases the number of rain swords by 1, so you get a 4th sword. Not too crazy, definitely going to help in that healing department and keeping your team alive, but not the craziest constellation. Moving on to that second constellation though, we have Rainbow Upon the Azure Sky. Extends the duration of Guha Sword Rain Cutter by 3 seconds, decreases the hydro resistance of enemies hit by sword rain attacks for 15% for 4 seconds. That's really good. It increases that elemental burst time, and not only that, it essentially allows it to just do another 15% damage, but it's a debuff here, so if you're using somebody like Mona as your main DPS and you also want to use Xingqiu, you're just debuffing the enemy, allowing you to do that much more damage. But even if you don't have dual hydro, you're still benefiting because your elemental burst is just going to be doing 15% more damage and lasting another 3 seconds. But moving on to Constellation 3 here, we have Weaver of Verses. Increases the level of Guha Sword Rain Cutter by 3, nothing too crazy, everybody's got these. Moving on to the 4th talent, we have Evil Soother. Throughout the duration of Guha Sword Rain Cutter, the damage dealt by Guha Sword Fatal's Rain Screen is increased by 15%. So this is really crazy. I'm not exactly sure how this works, but if it works the way I think it does, it's pretty insane. I think the way this is saying is that when you have the first ability up, your elemental burst has its damage increased by 50%, which is insane. However, I don't understand if the fact that when you cast the Guha Sword Rain Cutter, you also get the maximum amount of rain swords. So I don't know if it's counting that when you cast it, if you get that 50%. I don't think so. I think you have to cast the first ability and then cast the elemental burst in order to get that extra 50% damage. However, I'm not very sure. If anybody has that Constellation 4, let me know. I would like to know. I could go ahead and pin that in the comments for those of you who do know how that operates. However, moving on to the 5th constellation here, we have Embrace of Rain. Increases the level of Guha Sword Fatal Rain Screen by 3, maximum upgrade level is 15, nothing too crazy. But moving on to the final constellation here, we have Hence Call Them My Own Verses. Activating 2 of Guha Sword Raincutter's Sword Rain attacks greatly increases the damage of the 3rd. Xingqiu regenerates 3 energy when Sword Rain attacks hit enemies. This is kind of insane. So when you have your elemental burst going and you're just hitting them with your swords, doesn't matter what character, you're going to be getting extra damage, 1, and then 2, Xingqiu here gets 3 energy when Sword Rain attacks hit enemies. That doesn't look like there's a cooldown on that. So when you're using your elemental burst, apparently he's just gaining 3 energy per hit, which is bonkers in my opinion. It means he's always going to have his elemental burst if you have him at C6. But as I said, I don't really think you even need these. The sheer talents that he brings to the table are insane for supporting your healer and supporting your DPS characters. I think he's just an all-around fantastic character. But we're going to move on to the build portion here, and I haven't been able to level him up, see how his skills scale if you didn't notice that portion wasn't in the video. So the build portion will be a little brief here. However, I do have a good idea of how you might want to build him, as his talents, are pretty strict in their cooldowns and everything. So, you got to think about that. However, here is his lore for those of you interested, and you can go ahead and pause and read that if you like. Now, moving on to the artifact section here, I think this is kind of a basic building block that I have for Xingqiu, is having maybe a two-piece of the Noblesse Oblige here, and maybe a 2-piece of the Exile set is very nice. You could also go full Exile set, getting that extra energy whenever you cast his Elemental Burst. You could even go full Noblesse Oblige set here, where you get an extra 20% attack to your characters upon Elemental Burst cast. I don't think that's the best route. I think a good middle ground of, getting that energy recharge and his Elemental Burst here are going to be vital. I think the way you're going to want to build him is probably based on having attack, and then a Hydro damage bonus for the cup. It's probably going to be your biggest benefit. And then on your weapon, I think you're going to want something like the Skyward Blade here or the Favonius Sword here, increasing that energy recharge by a ton, allowing him to have his Elemental Burst as much as possible, allowing your team to just benefit from that raw DPS and the fact that it's going to keep your team protected. So having him on that extremely nice, energy recharge is going to be huge for the team. That's why I think Exile is without a doubt probably the way to go. And then increasing his damage with the Noblesse Oblige set is probably going to be the way to go. I'll definitely test it out, and I'll have a build out for him way in the future, because it takes forever to build characters as a game. However, I think that is the route you're going to want to go. And overall, I love Xingqiu's set. I think he's going to become one of my favorite characters when I have the resources to build him out, and I can't wait to. I've even been using him on my team already at level 20 here, just because of the sheer damage resistance he provides, and the Hydro, combos that I can do with him are so nice on my other characters. But, I'll have to wait to actually build him out. I still have plenty of other characters to build out. All my characters are still behind in terms of their, levels and stuff. I'm only at 70. I need to get these guys up to 80 and build them out. And I'll make those build videos coming soon to you. However, I hope you guys like Xingqiu, and even if you don't, that passive is incredible. And I highly suggest you at least try him out. That damage resistance is huge, and who doesn't like this stylish elemental skill? That's so sweet, in my opinion. I think it's so cool. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I might have talked really fast in this one. I don't know. I guess I was just really excited, if you couldn't tell. But, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I absolutely love conversing with you guys in the comments. You notice I try to respond to you guys as much as I possibly can. And let me know if you like Xingqiu, if you got him in the banner. What else you want to see in the future. But my name's Blossoms, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.